My name is Aria. I'm 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have carried two things inside me: big dreams and a quiet belief that someday my life would be more than just survival. I grew up in a small town where success was something people whispered about, something distant, something unreal, something that belonged to other people in other worlds, not to girls like me. But inside me, there was always a fire, small but steady, warm but stubborn. A voice that kept saying, "You were made for more." I didn't want to live a life where every day looked the same. I didn't want to just breathe, eat, sleep, and repeat. I wanted to create something beautiful, something mine. I dreamed of opening my own restaurant, a warm little place filled with soft lights, gentle music, and the smell of fresh bread spreading through the air like hope. A place where people felt comfort the moment they stepped inside. A place where I could finally say, "This is my world." But dreams cost money, and I didn't come from money. There was no magical inheritance waiting for me, no rich relatives, no shortcuts. So I worked, and I worked, and I worked. Cold mornings that froze my fingers, long nights that made my bones ache, and days when I was too tired to speak. For 6 years, I saved every dollar. I took 2 jobs, one in a bakery, one cleaning offices after everyone else went home. I didn't buy new clothes, I didn't travel, I cooked simple meals. I counted coins like they were diamonds. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, the money grew. By the end of 6 years, I had saved $100,000, a number that felt like a miracle. A number that tasted like hope. A number that whispered, "You're finally close." I believed in my dream, but deeper than that, deeper than anything else, I believed in love. And that belief, that soft, innocent belief, was what changed everything. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. A coffee shop, sunlight falling through the window like warm honey. The smell of roasted beans, the quiet hum of strangers talking about their simple, predictable lives. And then he walked in, with a smile that felt like summer, a smile that made the whole room soften. Damien, handsome, gentle, charming in the kind of way that makes you feel safe without even knowing why. He looked around, and when his eyes met mine, something inside me shifted. He walked over and asked if he could share my table. I said yes. Of course I said yes. We talked about life, about dreams, about the kind of futures we hope to build. And when I told him about my dream restaurant, he looked at me the way no one had ever looked at me before. He said, "Aria, you're special." And for the first time in my life, I believed it. Because he said it with softness, with certainty, with a kind of tenderness that felt like a promise. From that day, our lives slowly intertwined. He walked with me in the Mind Park. We drank coffee after work. He called every night and said I made his world brighter. And my lonely little heart, my tired, hopeful heart, felt alive for the first time. I felt seen. I felt understood. I felt loved. One evening, after a long walk, he took my hand. His fingers were trembling. I thought it was emotion. Now I know it was something else. He said, "Aria, I want a future with you. I want to build something together. And then I made the mistake that changed my life. I told him about my savings, the $100,000 I had earned with sweat and sacrifice. He listened carefully, too carefully, with a softness that now feels like poison. Then he said words that felt like magic. "Let me help you. I know people who can double your money in 6 months. You deserve a restaurant bigger than what you're imagining. Let me invest it for you." My heart jumped. My head hesitated. My hands shook. But he held them gently and whispered, "Arya, don't you trust me?" And I did. God, I really did. So I gave him everything, all $100,000, all my years of sacrifice, all my dreams in a single envelope. He kissed my forehead and said, "You won't regret this." I smiled. I felt safe. I thought my life was finally changing. And it did, just not in the way I dreamed. The next day, he didn't text. I told myself he was busy. The day after that, his phone was off. By the third day, his number didn't exist. I felt my chest tighten, my hands turn cold, panic spreading through me like poison. I went to the place he called home. His apartment door was open. Inside, nothing. Empty walls, empty shelves, empty air, as if he never lived there at all. Damien was gone, and so was my $100,000. That night, I broke. I cried until my voice vanished. I held my pillow and screamed into it because my heart hurt so much I thought it would stop beating. 3 questions kept repeating inside me. Where is he? Why did he lie? Was any of it real? My dreams turned to dust. My future vanished. The next morning, I walked into the police station with shaking hands. I told them everything. The officer said, "We'll do what we can, but if you gave him the money willingly, it's difficult." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" He sighed. "If there's no contract or written agreement, it's not technically a crime. It's betrayal." Betrayal. A word sharp enough to cut skin, sharp enough to cut me. I walked home feeling stupid, broken, alone. My friends didn't understand. Some blamed me. Some avoided me. Some said, "Why did you give him the money? You should have known." The shame was crushing, the kind that sits on your chest and makes breathing feel like a punishment. So, I stopped talking. I stopped smiling. I stopped believing in people. Every day felt like a year, heavy, slow, colorless. I had no money, no dream, no trust left in me. But one night, in my tiny rented room, surrounded by silence and shadows, I made a decision, a quiet promise to myself. I would not let him win. I stood up, wiped my tears, and walked back into life. I found a part-time job in a small beauty salon. The pay was little, but it kept my heart beating and my stomach full. I saved every coin. I cut every unnecessary expense. I lived simply, almost invisibly. My body worked every day, but my heart felt empty, hollow, cold. One night, after a long shift, I searched his name again, and there he was, a new profile, a new city, a new girl. But the same smile he used to break me. He called her my everything, just like he called me. My hands shook, my heart raced, but this time,
I did not cry. I took a screenshot. Then I opened a notebook and wrote down everything, every date, every message, every promise, every lie. This time, I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to break. I was going to fight with truth. I called the police again. This time, the officer's voice changed. He listened. He didn't interrupt. And when I finished, he said, "We will open a case." It wasn't victory, but it was a beginning. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without tears. A week later, the phone rang. "Miss Aria, we need you to come in. We found online accounts linked to Damien." My heart pounded. I grabbed my notebook and held it like armor. The officer looked through my notes carefully, then turned the computer screen toward me. And he said the words that changed everything. "You are not the only one." I froze. What? He pointed to 3 faces on the screen. 3 women, different cities, different lives. Same story. Damien had lied to them. Damien had stolen from them. Damien had broken them. My heart ached for each of them, but for the first time, I did not feel alone. The police gave me the contact of one woman. Her name was Elise. That night, with trembling fingers, I called her. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "He told me I was special. I gave him everything. Then, he disappeared." We cried together. 2 strangers, 1 wound. We started talking daily, sharing our heartbreak, our anger, our fear. And slowly, our pain transformed into something else, something sharper, something stronger. One day, Elise said, "Let's stop crying. Let's do something." "What can we do?" I asked. "Let's help other girls. Let's warn them." A spark lit in my chest, a purpose, a direction. We created a small online page. We called it Be Careful, Sister. We wrote about red flags, about manipulation, about how charm can be a mask, about staying safe. We shared our stories, and soon, messages began to arrive. Girls thanking us, girls asking for help. Girls saying they almost fell for a man like Damien. One message said, "Your story saved me. I was about to send money." I cried when I read it, not from pain, from relief, from healing, from purpose. Elise and I grew close, like sisters bound by the same wound. We promised each other, no more lies, no more secrets, no more tears for men like Damien. A year passed. The pain didn't disappear, but it softened, like a scar you stop noticing. I worked, I saved, I healed. Slowly, quietly, patiently. One evening, I stood in front of the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired, yes, but stronger, braver, wiser. My eyes were not the eyes of the girl who trusted too quickly. They were the eyes of a survivor. I whispered to my reflection, "It wasn't your fault. You loved. You trusted. That is not your weakness. That is your beauty." The next day, Elise and I went for a walk. The air was calm. The world felt gentle. She looked at me and smiled softly. "You know, he stole money from us, but he also gave us something." "What?" I asked. She whispered, "Power." And I felt those words settle inside me like truth. Because not everything broken stays broken. Not every wound stays open. Sometimes, heartbreak becomes strength. Betrayal becomes bravery. Pain becomes power. And in that moment, I understood something. This was not the end of my story.
it was only the beginning. If you like this story, please like, share, and subscribe.